So I figured we'd talk about ways to inspire yourself as a photographer, because it's easy to go through the day-to-day, run your business, go take photos, do videos, but not create anything for yourself. So we're going to talk about just these different ways that might be able to inspire you to be a little more creative. But first, I gotta cut the grass with this thing. You know, electric mowers are nice because they're super easy to start. Like, look at this. You just start button, hold this down. I'm not gonna be able to do this with one hand, am I? But right. Turned right on. Anyway, tip number one, it's gonna be movies. You see, we all love a good movie, right? The storyline, the visuals. You can see what their transitions look like, what their colors look like, and just how they tell the stories. And there's plenty of movies out there to choose from. Just find the ones that are gonna entertain you, but you've seen it 1, 2, 3 times probably. So what you're gonna wanna do is now look at the visuals of it and how are they telling that story. Watch one of those old movies you haven't seen in a while but you've watched numerous times and see how they do things. Not everything has to be this amazing like transition or anything like that. The movie that comes to mind I watched the other day is Hot Fuzz. It's by Edgar Wright. The thing that I noticed was the transitions he used. So the scene would kind of like fade to black or go to black, and then the transition would be just the camera panning across behind like a dresser or a drawer. Sometimes you just need something simple. So watch an old movie, you know? You can watch something like The Philadelphia Story, very easy, and you can get some ideas from that because that's from like the 1930s. So they film things a lot different and you might be able to pick up some stuff like that. You can pick something like Alfred Hitchcock. You could do something like The Revenant, right? The Revenant is a great story, but the visuals are immaculate. Or you have something like The Prestige by Christopher Nolan. And that movie's another one, right? That's very, very well thought out. The storyline's very good and you don't really know what's happening until the end. But it's all about when you're filming, telling a story and keeping people compelled. Next one's gonna be an easy one for most people because it's social media. 90% of people are on social media, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. The thing is, it's easy to watch those people on there and just get discouraged, right? Because you're like, I can never get there. And the thing you gotta remember is they all started somewhere. The king of YouTube photographers, Peter McKinnon, you watch his early videos to now, you see a big difference in the way they were filmed, right? He's always been a good storyteller, but filming wise, he's gotten a lot better at it. I feel the same way when I look at the videos I first started creating versus now, right? They look a lot better, I talk a lot better, I know how to edit a little bit better, and it's just a little bit at a time. Go on Instagram and find the people that inspire you. There's a lot of good content creators on there because there's a lot of people I follow that aren't necessarily in photography. One of the things I love following is musicians and poetry because that's gonna lead me into my next tip. So next is gonna be my favorite thing that inspires me the most, and that's gonna be music. And it doesn't have to be a record player like this. It could be your Spotify playlist, it could be the radio, whatever you listen to music on. But listen to music and try to think of how you would create a music video for that, how you would take photos for inside the album, whatever it is, right? Think of that and try to be inspired by music because a lot of musicians get inspired by different things. So for me, I like listening to all different styles. So it could be something like Otis Redding, it could be something like metal, like Iron Maiden. This is from the guitarist of Iron Maiden. And he talks about how The Number of the Beast, which is like their most popular album, and he got the song inspiration. He watched The Omen 2 and he ended up having this nightmare. And that's how he got inspired and wrote this song, was because of that. So use music as an inspiration because there's so much good music out there. You can get a lot of good storytelling in music and think, how would I create the video for that? Or you can listen to old jazz or whatever it might be and draw inspiration through that, but use music as an outlet for your creativity because music inspires everybody and it brings people together. And the last bit of advice I have is equipment. And this is just a little Instax 90, but it's fun. You go, you take a photo, it prints out, you get to look at it. But it's something that kind of gives you a different perspective. You could even do something like this if you're more into film but don't want to do film. This is the X100V, right? You got those built-in film simulations you can customize. And you can go on something like Fuji Weekly and get all these cool customization recipes. Or you can customize stuff for yourself. You could do something like that. Or you just go buy yourself a drone because you don't do drone work. And you try taking drone pictures and maybe that'll rejuvenate you to create more videos, to create more content, more photos, or go rent different lenses that you normally wouldn't. And I talked to a few friends about this because I didn't know if it was just like me being like, oh, equipment, right? But I talked to them because they kind of had the same thing, right? Where they've created before and they kind of get burned out and then they go to create it again and they're like, oh, I'm using a macro lens. Who cares, right? And once they get like a new piece of equipment come in, right? Whether it's a newer drone compared to the old one they have, its RF mounts compared to like an EF mount, whatever it is, it starts to rejuvenate them a little bit. And this isn't saying you need to always go out and buy new gear when it comes out, but if you're kind of stuck in a rut, find ways to get yourself out of that, right? Because it's very easy to get caught up in, I already know what it's gonna look like. Well, go try something else. Maybe it's your equipment, right? Maybe you need to switch. Maybe you need to try something new, whatever it might be. But that's another way to rejuvenate yourself in order to start creating more content and stuff you're enjoying. This isn't a foolproof list. There's plenty of other things out there you can think about, right? Travel, books. This was just a kind of an idea of a couple of the first things that come to mind when I think of it. So use these as a guideline to help inspire you to start creating more. Because we've all been there. We've all been to the point where it's like, I haven't taken a photo in months just because you're like, I know what it's gonna look like, or you just don't have that motivation. But sometimes these little tips and tricks can get you into that mindset to start motivating, to start creating again.